Okay, we're live for the latest edition of the Data Value Show. I think we've missed a couple of weeks because of logistics, but yeah, we're back with a vengeance. I think we missed our 2-year anniversary. I think we've been doing this 2 years now. So, but without further ado, I'd like to welcome Veronika Durgin. So we're going to talk about data platform gravity, a nice topic of mine that I've been talking about a while, and myself and Veronika have discussed it over dinner at some data conferences over the years as well. So we're gonna go back on our thoughts on that. But Veronika, welcome to the show.
Well, I'm glad to be back. Congratulations, 2 years. My gosh, your show is like a toddler now.
Yeah, exactly.
You can walk, maybe run. That's amazing.
Yeah, well, I nearly know what we're doing now. Nearly know what we're doing. And today I haven't even got a backdrop on because I have a good background for once. Anyway, I'm staying at my dad's place in Spain for the weekend. So,
That looks amazing. I still have the same wall behind me. So
I didn't, yeah, but normally my place is a mess when I'm at home and I have the wardrobes and the mess. I'd always trying to blur it out. So today, yeah, I don't have to dip in and out with a blue screen. So you get the full. Well, you may not want it, but you get the full view today. So today's topic, data platform gravity. So we just had a little chat before about where should we start the beginning of this discussion, I've talked about this in the past, and I think the latest changes is provided it a good topic to come back and discuss again. But before I go straight into it, because I do this, Veronika, would you like to give yourself an introduction for those that don't know you, or for those that don't know you and what you do and what you're about?
yeah, for sure. Just a quick 30-second elevator pitch without the bad music. So Veronika, I've been in data space forever and ever. My basically entire career and very long time. I spent a fair amount of quite a few years kind of on the operational database side of the business, fine tuning, optimizing, appreciating how beautifully designed system works. And then I transitioned into analytics. And it's been an amazing journey so far. So I've been really enjoying it. I love it. I do this as like it's my job, it's my hobby, it's my everything. What is it? Data our life. To quote the show. And just a quick disclaimer: so my opinions are my own and do not represent current or former employers. So just we can have a kind of a data practitioner conversation and not necessarily what companies we work for.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, I suppose mine are my own at the moment. I think I'm not allowed to say that, but well, let's see if I have to do a disclaimer at some stage.
And I do, and I think we should start with the definition of what how we define data gravity, data platform gravity.
Yes, that's a really good point to start. So the term data gravity, I think, has been around a while. I think I first started using it as part of the migration strategy and justification for moving to Snowflake. So, you know, mid 2015, 2016, 17 onwards. But I think it's been talked about prior to that. So when I talked about data gravity, it was the ability to have data co-located in a place to satisfy use cases rather than having to run something over here, summarize it, add it over here. So being able to have that, you've got the single view of the truth, or that single place where you can get that information, which so I think we've moved on a little bit from that. So that was, is that what you'd agree with that as a description?
I was actually, it's funny, like you describe it as data moving closer to applications. I really thought about it more of applications moving closer to data. So maybe that's kind of like the analytical space of like data's already there. So all the use cases are trying to kind of come closer to it. But I don't think direction matters. It's the togetherness.
I suppose the cardinality of it, it's a one to many or a many to one. So
yeah.
However they've come together, it was driving that consolidation of being able to satisfy requirements from being able to analyze data in a single place, which I suppose we were discussing earlier when we went to what platform gravity was, and we were saying were they correlated, and I think the changes that have happened with Iceberg and other file formats, that means that your data platforms now can access data that may not be co-located with it directly now, has loosened that data gravity sort of requirement of, in the old days, having everything in Teradata, or having everything in your Hadoop cluster.
So how do you define? So we define kind of like data gravity. You basically come to where data is, and data platform gravity is sort of, and again, that's how I'm defining it, is when you have a platform, a tool that just keeps adding additional capabilities so that you can solve all your problems in one place. And Iceberg is kind of like a great example of like the platform gravity, right? That's helping solve a lot of data gravity issues. Is that fair, roughly aligned?
I think that's a fair. And again, when I first started talking about this, it was more about you bringing your compute or your algorithms to that data that is in that same place. And we've obviously had compute for running SQL against it, and then Python to some degree. But with the platforms now supporting lots of generative AI as well as machine learning capabilities, so we've already started to bring that algorithm or those other extended use cases closer to that. So that was the beginning, I think, of platform gravity. And this will probably go on to the conversation that we had about Unistore. Is it the Snowflake format? Yeah. So
it used to be called Unistore. I can never remember what the new name is, or the current production name.
Previously known as Unistore. Yeah. Was that promise of the ability to combine OLTP with OLAP, and we had I was living in my one day it will happen world, and going, it's never going to happen, and it sort of hasn't, but it has in a different sort of way. So do you want to talk about why the complexities of bringing two different workloads together?
I think, I actually love that conversation, because I was very passionately saying you cannot do OLTP, transactional data processing, and OLAP, analytical data processing, on one platform. And the reason for that, for what I was saying, is because they require different storage access patterns, completely different. So to me, when you have a column store database meant for analytical things, it doesn't really, the storage engine doesn't really work quite well when you need fast access to like one record at a time. So that was my argument. So I wasn't necessarily saying against having both in one place. And I think kind of like the current acquisitions, both by Databricks and Snowflake, of Postgres, proves that they are vendors are hearing customer problems, saying it's so hard, I want one place to access all kinds of different types of data, right? I mean, frankly, like lake houses is another great example. The whole reason for the concept of a lake house, and I don't mean it like it's not a trademark Databricks thing, it's just a concept of a lake house. When you collocate your data lake and your data warehouse in the same sort of platform, it's the same thing, where as a customer you want that data gravity, you want to come to one place to get all of your data. So I think, like, what is it going to become now? Data lake house, I don't know, fly fishing. Like we're adding a transactional database to it. Go fly fishing at your data lake house. I don't know.
Well, I think they did actually come up. I think they came up with some name, not lake. Maybe it was there was some play on it, and I'm sure their marketing teams are working overdrive to try and work out some sort of operational.
Well, I have an idea. Let's call it Data Instapot. One gadget for all of your data needs.
Yes. Yes. So back to the whole. It was a hard problem to solve, and that was your point, and quite rightly so. And maybe I'll just go back to like data access patterns, just to probably give a little bit of a meat to what we mean by that. So OLAP databases or analytical databases, like the column store ones, is all about aggregating or summarizing large volumes of data. And as the access path of that, you're not looking for very small amounts of records. You're looking for large volumes of it. So, there's things like block sizes you used to have, and myself and Veronika work on Oracle ones, 4K, 8K, 16K blocks, and you'd actually work out what block size is based on the size of the data that was actually being loaded at that time, because you wanted to be able to quickly insert this data into its structure as fast as possible with the hardware that you actually have, and that meant you really had to optimize how you put the data in there. So bringing those two worlds together, you've got very small writes and very small reads, looking at very, very small number of rows of data, and then providing updates to very small amounts of data is very different for your file system structure and your access path of where you're going in to get that data. If it's individual rows, you want a very unique key that you're coming in on. Snowflake doesn't support unique keys, so you can set a primary key on it, but it's not enforced. So so that's why those two worlds are very different, and it's very interesting to see that Snowflake had been trying to solve that challenge for a while, but they went for the acquisition route. So, which
no shame in that. If somebody does a better job at something, bring them on.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, exactly. And they had sold all that containerization piece, so it was just a natural extension to that. So I think it was Crunchy Data, I think, which is a really interesting name that of the company they acquired.
Yeah.
I don't know what the new name's going to be for that. And I think Databricks had a similar acquisition. I think they got the first choice. I think was the biggest Postgres data vendor over Snowflake's one, but it can't be too different, really. So we've talked about the OLT. I think there's other aspects that I observed when I was at the Snowflake summit last in June, wasn't it? That wasn't that long ago. Was the amount of new features being added. So whereas your data platform would have a Fivetran, an Airflow, or even an Astronomer, which is the hottest name of DAGs at the moment, but not for the right reasons. I won't go into that one. Snowflake's Databricks, what is equivalent, is providing a lot more of that functionality. So how do you see the direction of that going, Veronika?
So that's an interesting one, and I went back and pulled some notes. I had the pleasure of joining TLC, which is a kind of like a business leadership program that's where a lot of Harvard Business School professors are teaching various different topics, and one of the topics was really business strategy. So and there were kind of like a few things that kind of I think is what we're seeing. So like as a business, right, a good business strategy is to be better than your competitors at all things that matter most to your customers, right? And then the other bullet point around strategy is only expand as a business for things that are mutually beneficial. So if a company A acquires company B, either things that company B does should be beneficial to company A or vice versa. So if we kind of like look into what every platform, to kind of like answer your question, the fact that both Databricks and Snowflake acquired OLTP software companies tells me that the customers were asking for it. And they basically expanded into an area that is needed for their customers and something that they couldn't solve themselves, right? They solved it through acquisition. Everything else is to be, we'll see, because we also know, and I have the most the funniest example for you, that as you look at platforms, all the platform vendors promise everything and doing everything awesome, but the reality is they do only core capabilities really well, and then all the peripheral ones not so well. And the example that I have, just totally random. So during COVID, as it happened to everyone, our refrigerator broke. I don't know. It has nothing about the story, but as we were kind of like shopping for refrigerators, there was a great one, I think GE made it, that also has a coffee maker built in. Now, seems like a great idea, right? You're like, oh, great. Well, now like I have less, but the reviews, the coffee maker was really horrible. So as you would expect, because a refrigerator literally is meant to do the thing that is the opposite of heating up water. So not every new feature or acquisition will actually work well for the customers and resonate. So I mean, we did not get the refrigerator, and we have an amazing coffee maker, but it's just like, to me, not as we kind of like look at these different capabilities that every platform's kind of dabbling in. It's to be seen if they'll work out or not, if they'll be truly the best of the class.
And I'm just making some notes now. I think I've used this in the past. It's the good old one of best of breed. You know, if you're going with the best of breed. But I think now it's like always the best of the greed. So you go with, is there a valid, are the customers demanding these features, or is this a market share grab of others to increase revenue, to satisfy your shareholders, to show that you've gotten the growth that you're promising? And I don't know which. You know, both places on.
I mean, like pragmatically, I don't know either. I mean, I don't own a business. I mean, I think it's a mix of both. And as a customer, honestly, if you don't care about the quality of your coffee, and as long as it's brown water, like no knock on that, but it's that refrigerator is perfectly fine because it saves space. Like it's one thing that solves multiple problems. So I'm sure there are use cases for kind of like platform gravity, where even if certain capabilities are subpar, it's still good enough for that specific use case, that company, whatever.
And I think we needed it. We needed some level of consolidation, you know, and the modern data stack was getting, you know, bad cred because, you know, you needed 10 vendors to go and create what you needed. And then those 10 vendors, 2 of those vendors were dealing with the fact you had 8 vendors. So it become too complex, and I suppose slow down adoption. I think that's something that I'm seeing now with what companies we're working with. They'll start with, let's just go simple. Let's just put it in. Let's get Snowflake in with everything, and we'll extend out at the right time to go and put Dagster in, maybe if we get to the more complex stuff, or an alternative data quality tool rather than using something internally with Snowflake. But the maturity of some of these things is getting better. So it will be a bit of a what's the right approach for you as an organization at the right time, and that journey of your team size, you know, complexity of your requirements, and budget constraints, really.
And the other, again, and I'm sure Chris, like kind of like you see this and you do this in your work, their core absolutely must critical capabilities that your company needs. So you buy, hopefully, or acquire the best of breed tool to solve that problem. And anything in between, you can figure out whether you choose to buy some smaller sort of vendor that solves that problem, or you build yourself. Or maybe you lean, like I said, in like not the greatest, but it solves the problem capability of the platform. So it kind of like it's it depends, right? It depends on your situation. The other thing, however, is like, and I actually wrote the build by bridge. I think we need to really think carefully about how will we be able to replace, swap out our platforms and capabilities. I think we live in a world where things change so fast, and locking into something massive will actually be very, very expensive to replace it later. And it's like, again, I'm sure you've seen it, like mainframe is a great example. It works. Like it still works, but you're missing on so many opportunities. So you're now starting to layer complexity of how get data in and out, but it's really hard to justify the cost it takes to actually replace a mainframe. So like try, maybe it's hard, but you just need to kind of like figure out trade-offs.
We're working with a client at the moment that is removing some things that are still off the mainframe at the moment, and they're using this approach of taking out some of that business functionality over time, but it's a lot of that load is now in the data platform because it is analytical sort of stuff. So I think gradually over time replace these things, and maybe that's the other way around, gradually over time extending. You start with a core and you extend out when needed. I just had some notes I made here was, and the last time we had some sort of type of platform gravity or data platform gravity, but I don't think quite on the scale of this, where we have got the OLTP world and the OLAP world in the same place. Well, maybe Oracle, for example. Okay, well, actually, maybe let's even put SAP or even IBM, or let's not pick on any individual. All of them went through that period of time of Oracle was just a database, a really, really good database. It's not just a database now; it's their core product.
SQL Server. I'm SQL Server camp, so I just kind of feel. No, I'm just teasing you.
You can saying one about that. They added a CRM system. They were, I suppose, when they were an operating system, I suppose, and then moved into the data. Well, they stole Sybase's database, if you want to go back to where it all came from. But and they built an ecosystem around it, as well as operational systems, as well as using let's use the SQL Server one, analysis services, DTS or SSIS or whatever ADF as it's called now. But at what point did the acquisitions go so quick that the product became less and less, where you went back to, I'm going best of breed, because my God, this is just, I'm going to keep with IBM for my front end reporting. I'll keep Oracle for my database. I'll keep Informatica for my ETL tool, because those are all very, very good.
And then you're stuck, right? Because the rate of change in tech goes really, really it's exponential. And if the tool, that's why, as you kind of look at your platforms and tools, make sure that there's some sort of partnership, and the rate of change and innovation with your vendor partner is keeping kind of to your requirements. So, and that's why sometimes it's really hard to partner with smaller startups, right? They're still kind of trying to figure out, and maybe there's a little bit of misalignment in values. Not that there's anything wrong. It just, so to your point, Chris, I think, I haven't had much experience with Oracle, but I think SQL Server was amazing until it kind of started lagging. And then new platforms came on board, and then the decision was kind of, you're feeling like you held back a little bit. And it's, it pains me to say that, but because I think, to your point, Oracles and SQL servers were amazing, 10 years ago.
And they took the eye off the ball with all the other acquisitions, rather than, keeping their core product at center. And we said, fast forward now, it's all about data. So if either of them have kept on top of it, there wouldn't be the likes of Snowflake or Databricks around, because there wouldn't be the gap in the market. So I think it's a good thing, because I think they had it probably too easy and didn't need to be challenged. And this has got them challenged. So what was I going to go to next? So something I talked about with Hala, actually, when she was on before, and we were talking about digital twins, and I was thinking about the concept of platform gravity. Imagine now you've got your OLTP databases in the same place as everything else, all your business processes there. You've opened up the opportunity to have much more accurate or reactive digital twins, because it's much easier to spin up and create multiple environments for different scenarios, because the platform's all in the same place. Security is less of a thing, because ideally you'd have the same security over both of it, which is being reused. So I think that's something. I think I don't know if it's intentional by Snowflake and Databricks for that, but I think that's going to open up a lot more opportunities for companies to keep that competitive edge, which the point you made earlier is what we all should be investing in. It's keeping our competitive edge in this fast-paced industry at the moment.
Well, I'm gonna drop AI because it's been almost 30 minutes and we haven't said it. Your agents need to act fast. And when your agent has to bounce across 200 different places where data is, agent's gonna be darn slow.
Yep.
So there's some value even as we're kind of still trying to figure out, and I'm not gonna open that can of worms what agentic AI is, but for your automation to act as fast as possible, you need to have data maybe in slightly less places than it's necessarily now. And security, of course, you mentioned security is another great kind of reason of why there is value in sort of data gravity and platform gravity.
Yeah, I think it's minimizing your blast radius. I think the other thing I'd use is if your data is all, mind you, minimizing the blast radius, and also maybe very good targeted blast radius. So it means you have to be even more conscious with your security of where you're doing this.
I know, I love it. It's just for every good thing, there's always like a negative thing. That's I think the most beautiful and ugly thing about humanity is every great thing, there's always a bad agent that will make it not so great.
Yeah, and in fact, we've got some shout outs to some people that have joined, which I haven't had a chance to say. So Ramona, obviously, one of the loyalist followers we got, and Carl Evo, Jason, and Matthew Mullins as well. But Jason brings and I think what we're really saying is, we're trending back to the mono platform. It's one big mainframe, but a bit fancier now.
I don't know. I don't feel this way. I actually, and I'm not like the most optimistic person. I'm very realistic, but I think we swung from one side to the other, and now we're trending towards the middle of where it's actually like a nicely balanced situation of things that make sense are collocated and things that need to be somewhere else or not.
Yeah.
So Jason, I think we are trending back, but I think we're actually trending more towards the middle of what we should have been doing to begin with, but we tend to always swing from one extreme to the other.
I agree, and it's the same thing with centralization versus decentralization. So we and I think there's a good meme or something like that is you're putting it one way. Oh no, we've gone too far. Oh, we go the other way. And it's a bit of a pendulum, and we're maybe settling it at what the right balance is. But something else you mentioned, and I'll come back to Matthew's comments in a minute, was the underlying technology changing. And something that we always use now is we always used to go in with technical diagrams when you go somewhere and here's your your nice logo for your Airflow, nice logo for your Dagster, or your Fivetran, your Rivery. But now when we go in now, it's a blueprint, functional components, or to make functional components and subcomponents in each of them. That's how we start. The blanks each page, we go in and go, right, these are all the things you're going to need at some stage. Right? What technologies you use during that one will change. But don't start documenting everything as, right, I've done the Fivetran documentation. No, you've done the ingest documentation. Or I've done the Airflow stuff. We've missed this again. So I think it's to provide the ability to mix and match and have that flexibility to, reel back from one particular vendor at the right time. I think that's something that you should always try and have a technology agnostic view of what you're doing, and then build up what technology are to be used now, in the future, in 6 months, and maybe a year's time, and then that's your roadmap that you look to validate. Are those the right things for us to focus on at the right time? Because as architects, like designing these things, but we're doing this for the business, so we need to make sure that the business gravity makes us work on the right platform gravity stuff.
It's funny you mentioned those diagrams. I remember them from a few years ago. I think we were all kind of learning the hows instead of the whats what we're trying to solve versus how we're trying to solve it. And now I think it's a widely kind of like known thing of all the possible hows. And now we're focusing on the what, and hopefully the why is what you're saying is ultimately like, why do we even need it, right? To kind of going back to like, maybe you just need one tool, one platform, one something, and you solve the why, and your the what and the how matures as you kind of like your company matures, your team matures, etc.
Yeah, and I think that's the other why. It's why now as well, isn't it?
Yeah,
So
why now is
why now? Yeah.
you have, these are fascinating conversations of why are we doing this and why now.
Yeah.
It is very interesting how many people get stumbled by that.
Yeah.
And like I would even say like, because it's cool, like I mean it's a fine answer, but like people don't want to say that, so it just like silence.
Yeah. I want to learn it so it goes on my CV, because as a job I get paid for it. My next job with that skill.
I
probably not.
actually, we kind of veering off the subject, but I actually, if you kind of like show up with some proposal and they say, I actually want to learn it, this is new, I want to understand it, I think there's tremendous value in that. And we don't do this often enough. And then we rush head like first into something we know nothing about. And that's how we fail.
So that's a good thing. It's we love you do need to allow innovation. You do need to allow people to try new things and learn new skills. But it's just, if you provide that wriggle room, or that your dev day, your hackathon day, or
you're like 10 to 15% of your time.
Exactly. Like, you've got Friday afternoons, and our staff, they have X amounts of hours a week that aren't allocated to staff stuff, and there's some meetings of that, but there's other things they can program themselves. But if you provide that, you're less likely for them to go and, well, if they did go and suggest to go and perform, use a particular product, they actually know, look, I've used this, did it in the hackathon, we saw it added this value. By the way, our releases were X amount more accurate and 10% more efficient, or whatever your stats are. Well, I've got evidence. Brilliant. No worries. We'll put it on the backlog straight off the thing that's got 5,000% of value at the moment, but this one will get queued. But at least we have something to work out when it's relevant. It's doing the right things in the right order is
it's always a balance, right? It's a balance, and like we need to understand some trade-offs when we're making decisions. But I wanted to make sure we answer Ramona's question actually about zombie data teams.
Oh, right. Yes.
So I
have
have it written down. So back when you and I chatted last time, it was around Halloween, and we were talking about zombie data teams. So and she asked if there's any hope for zombie data teams to survive consolidation. So Ramona, I had to do a little research about movies about zombies. For the most part, all the zombies are pretty dumb, and they're just kind of like trying to chase you and kill you, right? Except for I Am Legend, where I think they were a little bit misunderstood.
They were.
And The Last of Us, there's also a little bit of some of it, whatever that show is, all of us, I can never remember. So there's more to them. So I think the misunderstood zombie teams, I think they have a chance of survival if they adapt to whatever changes are happening in the world. But the other zombie teams, I don't think they'll survive. So I think the name of the game is almost like adapting to whatever the changes are happening and making sure that you're fast and that you survive the apocalypse.
Yeah, I think it's embracing change, and I think I've always used it, emotional attachment. Yeah, and some zombies have emotional attachment to doing the same repetitive task over and over again, and they don't want to stop doing that. But if you can see past the fact that, okay, I've always done this way, there may be a better way of doing it, and I think this is the key thing, and not feel that your job is at risk. So that is the thing that I think the fallback positions are, oh no, you can't do it that way because it's more because they feel that they're losing control of doing something. So taking your team on the journey, because these skills are transferable, and there's a lot of merit in. I've been around quite a while. I'm still useful.
I don't know. Will everybody agree? I'm just kidding. Will everybody agree with that? I think about it. Do you know of a job that hasn't changed in the past 20 years or 30 years?
Accountants probably the only one that.
But even so, there are different rules. There are different tools that are like there's always evolution, and maybe for some it's a little bit slower than for others. So just I think everybody gets uncomfortable at some point. Like you continuously do things differently and learn to do things differently. So I think just I always say just reset your baseline. Your baseline is that tomorrow likely will be slightly different than today, and that it's really just normal sort of life, right? Like cars everything is changing all the time. So it's really I struggle a little bit of why people get so nervous. Maybe when the change is big, and we all kind of hate big changes. But otherwise, it's normal.
I think another thing is if you're used to change. For example, in our industry, we've had to deal with change probably more rapidly than maybe other roles, because the technology's moved on so quick, or you've moved around, or they've acquired new technology, so you have to use new things over time. Whereas maybe someone that's, let's say the mainframe, it works on the mainframe, they haven't changed what they've done. They've always been doing COBOL or something else, and thinking, whoa, I don't want to learn Python. Well, that's but they probably could learn it right quickly, and because I think I did logic over languages. I think knowing logic, which if you're doing programming in whatever language, you'll have a good understanding of logic and how it works.
Yeah.
Languages, especially with the ability to use vibe coding, cursor or other things.
I was going to say, well, I will tell you that if you program it in mainframe and COBOL and you're vibe coding and for Python, you're probably wonderfully ahead of a bunch of other people who never coded before and now vibe coding.
Yeah.
So I think that's what you're saying. Like you have the fundamental understanding of logically how languages work. And yes, it's sure COBOL's different, but you have that base foundation, and then you can literally now with all the tooling available pick up it just about anything.
Yeah, I think so. I think what I found is I could do things much quicker that I would have had to rely on other people to help me with. I still need help. It's not as if I'm self-sufficient on everything, but I'm not as blocked as on many things, and I can try out a thought, a scenario, and work out it's not going to work before I've involved other people. Or if it does work, I can go ta-da, which sometimes happens. But so Ramon's got another one here as well. The biggest great has been the hype that became strategy, and tech was looking for problems. It was very much, we have the tech and we're looking for problems to solve. We go, right, we've got this big data platform now. What problems are we going to solve, rather than very much the business focus.
I think I love Ramona. Ramona is probably one of the most deep thinkers that I know. And Ramona, I don't know if you'll appreciate it. I think it's really, the hype is really about ABC is now easy. And we as humans always love easy. So we're like, oh, well, I didn't have this problem, but it's easy to solve. So why won't I solve it too? Right? Like I kind of look like all the hypes are really about, oh, now this is easy and that is easy and this is easy. And then you don't realize that maybe it's easy from, 0 to 1, but like from 1 to 10, it's actually very difficult. It's still very difficult. And is 1 sufficient enough for you?
Yeah. I've just another mate's North thoughts as well.
And Chris is clearly not very good at multitasking typing. You need an AI assistant, Chris.
Tell me about it. I need two screens as well. That's the problem. I'm traveling at the moment, so I don't have my screen that I can keep my notes on. But I think there's another area that we haven't actually touched on, and again, part of that data platform gravity is data apps. So I suppose I'll shout out at Sigma. Sigma seems to just, it is taking over a storm, and we've seen that being used in a few places now, in places I hadn't really thought of. A few years ago, I wouldn't even thought of this as being something we'd start doing. And so, for example, your CRM system or your CRM system, you'd have to go and put data into your CRM system to allow it to your team to do your customer relationship management. So that could be, number of value of purchases made, their customer life cycle value, where their interaction was on the website recently. Lots of value information is useful when someone's taking a call from a particular customer, or especially maybe a high wealth customer or something like that. Maybe Saks has got a dial in for for the limited edition range or something like that. So that's you want to know when that person's calling in. This person bought 5 Prada shoes last, or pairs of Prada shoes. This we need to make sure that we provide the best service, and I'm sure they provide best service for everyone. But so you think now, and that's expensive. I've seen this when doing architecture for, API calls, you charge per API call, putting that data in, it slows down your system because it's got to go and bring fetch that data in. Now with data apps, if you take off a lot of the load and have just the basics in your CRM, anything that required additional data for any business process or decisions, you could have an app on top of your Snowflake platform now, as long as it isn't too heavy on the write back part. Well, maybe that won't be a problem now with the ability to write maybe to the transactional objects are in there. But now you've minimized that data movement and possibly minimized or reduced your cost of your Salesforce users or access its needs. API calls it needs to be made to go and satisfy all of your requirements in the CRM system.
So to read it back to you, and I'm actually not quite I don't follow Sigma, so I don't know what they're doing now. But what you're really saying is you're talking about data gravity, where these basically little apps are making decision or actioning on data that's sitting in one place.
Yeah.
Right. So and this is going to be maybe a little controversial, maybe not. Isn't that kind of like roughly what agentic AI really is meant to be at some point, where this little things, apps, and to me, agentic AI has not really much about LLMs, where LLMs are just like Gen AI is some part of capability of automation versus calling an API that's doing a calculation or doing analytics or whatever. Is that kind of like what you're talking about, where your data is sitting mostly in one place?
With the human interaction part. So at the moment, you don't need to. Anything you need to actually have some interaction from the user to say, yeah, that's right, or
Sure.
I approve this. So I think you're right. It's a combination of those two things. Having now, a light touch on the CRM system that you'll go across into your data platform afterwards for the next part of the business process you've got, which some of that could be human interaction, some of that could be it's gone off, got some information, done some scanning, use your own internal knowledge, and then got to put the request onto a queue now that someone else goes and looks at. So you've minimized the amount of data movement required forwards, because the chat is all in the same place, and you're putting your business processes to where where the data's got the gravity.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with you around data gravity specifically. I think the other angle to take is we have so much data now we're gonna run out of space to store it all, and the only way we can continue storing more data and making decisions on it if we stop copying from one place to another. Like that's one way to kind of optimize, right? Not only pay less, hopefully provide better security. It's easier to protect one place versus 20, but to your point, it's now a target, but that's hopefully you have pretty solid rules in place, but also in general, kind of like Earth is pretty limited and how much space we have, and we can keep building data centers. So now we need to focus a little bit on being efficient in how and where we store our data.
And yeah, I mean, that whole efficiency is another thought as well, is the amount of power consumption coming up now, and use of water and all of the things just to drive this.
And then we just burn through compute, which is, to your point, these data apps, and now hopefully optimize on storage, but spend all our money on compute.
Yeah. So I think that's going to have that's probably one for another day, is the whole FinOps now having to work out your Gen AI usage as well. Because we've started seeing, running some of this stuff within Snowflake environments, but if you're going to roll this out on scale, it's going to be very hard to establish how that's being used. You're getting associated value from it. I know how much, right? You have arguments with it sometimes. You're chatting backwards and forwards. Who's paying for that? Snowflake still charge you, whereas at least my OpenAI, my ChatGPT subscription, it's capped at the moment. So for now, but who knows what?
But they locked you out. They're like, stop asking stupid questions. We just
not yet.
I'm waiting for the day when one of the chatbots just shows a little bit of attitude instead of just positively saying you're brilliant when we both know I'm not.
I was reading something as well, going slightly off topic, but someone had written their amateur theory on time space, travel and things like that, and ChatGPT was saying, you're great, you're onto something, brilliant, and then unfortunately sent the guy a bit too crazy because he thought he had invented, the speed of time travel, which obviously he hadn't. I think there does need to be a reality check when maybe just says it how it is, just say, don't be such an idiot, come on, don't be stupid ideas. What are you thinking when you came up with that idea or something, rather than go, we'll do that and burn through loads of electricity and that, and for no reason whatsoever. So let's try and see what we haven't covered, or if we covered the questions on here as well. So I didn't actually bring up, but Matthew brought out a valid point. We're back to Jason's comment about he's going back to the single uni vendor, or the single platform, uni platform. And it's an interesting point of, I've seen this so many times, of companies going through acquisitions and or mergers, then demergers, and we work with clients. I've seen it go three different iterations during that, and unfortunately then you are going to have to pick up multiple ones. But this goes back to your comment earlier, is that when we're doing these mergers, the bright people at Harvard saying that you need to make you're good at this, you're not, you listen to them, you're good at that. But I've never seen an organization being that sort of
and I think what Matthew was also kind of saying, and Kirsty could probably relate, back in the day where you're like, we're just Microsoft SQL Server shop, and then somebody buys an app that's only running on Oracle. I think what we're seeing in large companies is just the complexity of the environments in the world, and just kind of like, I guess, Conway's law in the sense where everybody kind of does whatever organizationally they do, and there isn't necessarily an alignment, and people are acting in the way that the organization is. So it's not a simple world. I think in a simple world, we would have all loved to have just one platform that does everything we need in the way we want it to do it, because from operational perspective, that's a dream, right? But things just get very, very complex, and you can't really, like, you try your best to simplify it, but it's hard.
And I suppose that's the thing, that every company wants to think they're different and better, because if this thing existed, this one platform that was brilliant at everything, there's no competitive advantage anymore.
Right.
So everyone's just as good as each other. So yeah, I don't think we can never get to. I always say what your special sauce is, or what your magic is what you do need to build yourself, or have at least ownership or control of that destination. But it's working out what that bit is. I think that the last important thing to cover and talk about was how do we avoid the world, always moving. How do we deal with this world of platform gravity and migrating to the latest one, or keeping providing the ability to be able to mix and match over time without getting too sticky on these things as new products come out?
I think there are two things that I want to say. One is focusing on kind of like core components and then fill in the gaps, but really focusing on core components. And I think the other one is making decisions knowing that, like, with the biggest thing of that decision needs to be that it needs to be relatively easy replaceable. Actually, three things. And the other thing is when you partner with someone who is a critical core of whatever your capabilities, make sure that they're aligned with your vision of where your company is going. So they're like innovating and pacing at the same rate as you are, because you don't want the disconnect. They could be outpacing you, or you could be outpacing them. So it's kind of like three things, three pillars. Yeah.
Yeah. So summarize that. So I'll get the last one. So are you going the same direction, and have they got the capacity or capabilities to support you at the speed you're going? What was the other one then?
So build for change, whatever build or buy, make sure that you're making sure that it's like you're making a decision for change, because you want to make sure that you can replace it if you choose to in 2 years or 3 years. So everything is becoming more of like I don't want to say ephemeral, but kind of. And what was the other one? Like focus on your core components.
Core components.
Don't spend too much energy on little things. Just identify your core components first, and then fill in the gaps.
And something is that I think change for change's sake. So and this is where you lose the support of the stakeholders. They've seen this before so many times. If someone's come in, we're going to go and replace this, and they end up with either a lesser functionality or the same functionality they had before, and they've gone through loads of pain.
Well, but that's the build versus buy decision. But like I think what we talked about, why are we doing it, and why are we doing it now, is always has to be the number one thing, regardless of what we're doing. Even if you just want to experiment, there's always needs to be that conversation of why and why now.
Yeah, I think that's another thing. Is sometimes the why is okay, right? We got to save money. They've put our charge up so much. It's really, and I think with that transparency, under people going, oh, okay, right. I know that by this way, we'll be able to survive the downturn, or we'll be able to have a better year next year because we've done these savings, and you'll be happier with that decision. But I don't think that's always well communicated when that is normally the objective. But there's always try and get some quick wins in for the try and bake in something that just makes the stakeholders' life easier on that journey, because they're going to be much more supportive for you on that, when the next change comes in as well.
And the other thing that I wanted to say, we talked about it. Humans don't like change. Change is scary. So be both empathetic but also firm. So kind of like ready for a long haul, because there's going to be a lot of pushback. It's very difficult. So both on your stakeholders to accept the change, but also on you, because you're going to get a ton of pushback. So if you truly believe that whatever it is you're implementing is the right thing to do, you kind of get ready for a long haul, because it's like asking your kids to brush their teeth. They don't want to, but it's for the better. Sometimes it's kind of that, but also again, understand that people, are just scared of the unknown, afraid of the unknown.
Yeah, it's taking on the journey. I think choosing who you take on that journey is sometimes, I've thought that before, is that your natural one is to go with the easiest, most friendliest person out there, and that's the wrong choice, because actually you can win them over later. They're easy. The one you need to get is the most vocal person that says it can't be done, is so anti it, and is the loudest. It's not natural that you go there, but that's the one you choose. You make them happy. You make them happy. Oh yeah, both. But you do.
But bring your friend list, because they're like, you need cheerleaders too.
Oh,
Because I'm sure there will be days for you when you're like, I'm giving up. So kind of like have a nice mix of people that are truly your supporters and people who kind of are very skeptical. Because
you bring the kids that can brush their teeth really well to show the others. Say, look, they're having so much fun, and they get sweets tomorrow.
get a toothbrush that has AI in it that tells you when you need to brush your teeth.
Yeah, it gets them more iPad or phone screen time or whatever it is. Well, yeah, if you get extra, these double reward points for every 1 minute of brushing time. It's 2 minutes of screen time. Yeah, maybe I should have used that when I was teaching my kids. All right. Well, we're nearly at the hour anyway. But anything else you want to tackle or cover on this topic of platform gravity?
Yeah, nothing comes to mind other than I think it truly just think through it, whatever decisions you make for your company, for your team, identify trade-offs, and just, nothing is perfect, nothing ever will be, and be ready for change. Change is coming now faster than ever. So whatever decisions we make, just make sure that you'll probably, and don't be precious about your decisions, I think is what I'm trying to say. Because the decision you make today, given the information that you have and the facts that you know, tomorrow is going to be something different. So you'll have to walk away from your decision.
That's a really good thing as well, is that, a decision made at a point in time. This is really good to have a decision register or a decision log, because the actually made it with the information you had. It probably was the right decision probably at that time. But anyone that's coming in and looking back, unless you're able to say, hindsight's a great thing, if someone's coming and say, yes, but what would have you done if you had this information at this point with what's on the market? We're in a different place. So so don't back to that emotional attachment decisions. Your decision you made was probably the right one at the right time. So don't force it still to be correct just because.
Oh, right.
Yeah, exactly. So where's your travels? Where are you going to be presenting next, or conferences, or your meetup?
Nothing yet to announce, but as always, please connect with me on LinkedIn. It's my social media of choice at the moment. So for what it's worth, that's a good place to keep up with me. Nothing. I just got back from CDO IQ, which was actually in Massachusetts last week. So that was very convenient. Met Matthew in person. So that was amazing. Maybe we should have like a powwow on CDO IQ conference. I think there are some interesting things to discuss as well. A slightly different sort of crowd, I think, and
more business focused, you think?
I think so. More business focused, kind of like higher level executives. So it's very interesting, especially for those who are bridging from like IC, like all the way up, all the way down to the weeds. I think it's an interesting perspective of how people at that level see the world and what problems they are dealing with.
Yeah, definitely. Right, I think I'm not very good at multitasking. The messages coming in as well. I think we'll probably call that a wrap. But Veronika, as always, fantastic conversation. Always enjoy our chats. I'm back in New York for the beginning of August, but I'm in UK majority of the time for a while now.
So I kind of like at this point, maybe I'm likelier to meet you in UK, but in New York. But we'll see. Maybe we will be co-located geographically, maybe at some point.
If you make Big Data London, if there's any excuse for you to get there for some reason, or see if I can manifest one for you, we'll see. But well, that's the next. I think I'm doing another one as well online, but And I think I may have JT on next week, but I don't know if he's confirmed or not. But yeah, and you'll find me on LinkedIn.
He was just voluntold. JT, you're on next week, so I don't know if you knew that or not.
I messaged him last night, but he sort of replied. I don't know if he replied to a message I sent to him. But yeah, and if I've been a bit, I had someone reach out to me and say I've been too quiet on LinkedIn. I have been because I've been busy, too busy. But I will be back to my Mean Data Streets posts and yeah, my snippets of my mind, what's bothering me at the moment. But I just haven't had a chance to share stuff recently. But
well, Chris is just taking a moment of peace and quiet to collect his thoughts and think. We're so busy, we sometimes don't have time or forget to spend just time inside your mind just thinking. So I'm sure whatever's coming is going to be amazing. Thank you so much for having me. Yeah.
No problem at all. Always a pleasure, Veronika. Okay, well, thank you, everyone. I think we're back next week. So until then, we'll call it a wrap.
Bye.
Bye.